Hello and welcome to another 8 Note. I am Sam Irvin here in Irvin Music Studio in Asheville, North Carolina. I do this weekly live stream every Wednesday at 8 p.m., hence 8 parentheses p.m. note, the title of this show. Usually I have a guest on every week to chat for an hour and jam for an hour, but this week I'm all by my lonesome. I wasn't sure if I was going to be on vacation, and I wanted to sort of remain flexible for the first live stream of the year. You know, last year has been sort of a journey of self-rediscovery for me, and so I think this fall, this is on theme. This aligns with that sort of path that I'm on of reconnecting with myself, and you're going to watch me do it. I'm going to reconnect with myself right in front of your very eyes tonight with this nice upgrade to the show, Christmas present to myself, SMB7s, these Shure microphones that you've seen on every other talk show and podcast. It's blocking a good percentage of my face. I'll have to think about how I've got it set up. I have one for the guest who's not here too, as you can see. What do you think about this? I think that's a little bit better. I don't know. I'll keep messing around with it. A tradition of the show, you might remember if you've watched before, is for me to check my own sound. Hold on for a second. Oh my gosh, it's better than ever. Crystal clear. I have to check myself because for the past almost a year, this is episode 47, so that's 47 weeks in a row, save one where I was at the beach. It haunts me that I missed that one episode. Oh, you know what? Let's get serious here. I'm gonna take off the blue light glasses that I use all day while I'm staring at screens, editing and marketing, and reading sheet music off of my iPad. Those glasses really do help, I think. Anyways, I've been doing this live stream for 48 weeks, minus one. This is episode 47. And I've been producing the whole thing, trying to market it as best as I can every week. Not too long ago, figured out how to schedule an event in advance. So if you've been seeing invites to a Facebook event every single week, that's because I've been marketing it that way, trying to post it on Facebook groups. If you're watching this on Instagram, you're not hearing the sultry tones of this SM7B, so maybe scoot on over to YouTube or Facebook or Twitch or Twitter or LinkedIn. And you'll not only hear this particular microphone, but also the music that I will play, or in future episodes, the guest and I will play. Today, my agenda includes talking a little bit about myself and my business, the Christmas past. Talk about Christmas past. It is January 4th, so Christmas is past. But the past, present, and future of my musical career. After I get enough of my ego expressed by talking about myself for a little bit, I will play some classical guitar. I was thinking that I would run through a typical morning practice routine live, which means I will have done that twice today, but I think I can survive. Maybe I'll shorten it. I also am planning on providing a sneak peek of my in progress album. I've mentioned it on here a few times before that I've been working on this album forever, and my method has been to use MuseScore, a music standard notation sheet music writing software to write out all the parts, and so we'll take a look at some of those. And then I will think I'll hop on all the Moogs and such, and maybe build a cool set of sequences and drum along. Somewhere in there, we might look at the MPC-1 that I got recently, and maybe build a sequence or a trap beat on there. So there's plenty I can do for the music portion of this a little later. Throughout the entirety of the show, I'm going to carry around my laptop and make sure that yes, I was about to say I'm gonna make sure that I've got the comments up showing. Usually, sometimes I don't quite keep track of that, but today I do. And it looks like Travis Little's talking to me about how I should stream on Twitch, and it's funny that you are saying that, because I did almost give up on Twitch recently. I was troubleshooting today because I am still curious about how to up the quality of these. You know, the audio quality's already better with these new mics, but the video quality has been stumping me a little bit. And I use just a Brio 4K webcam for this portion. I use a Q2N, which is unfortunately 720p for like my second camera. Sometimes I use that for the drum set or multiple angles, you know, during the jam in general. And the I think this is Travis. I don't know. I'm assuming that it is. Says that he just got the Roland T8 and J6. Let me know if I want to borrow these guys. I'm not actually sure what these are. Uh-oh. Sorry. I don't know the rules. I'm a novice streamer. I don't mean to dox anybody. And plus, I was just making assumptions. I could be wrong. Better yet, Travis, you should come on the live stream and bring these devices. And please tell me what these are, these Roland devices. Are they sequencers? Are they keyboards? Are they mics? Roland makes great stuff. Do I have any Roland? I used to have a Roland Juno in the studio. But right now I think I'm Rolandless. But anyways, what was I saying? Oh, the video quality. I am testing out right now. I upped it to 60 FPS and upped my bit rate to 5800 kbps. I don't know if this means anything to anybody, but hopefully I'm not dragging. I look pretty good on my monitor situation over here on YouTube. Oh no, Travis, don't disappear because I doxed you. Tell me what these Roland devices are. So yeah, that seems to have helped out the quality a little bit by pumping up the bit rate and kicking up the frames per second. Okay, it says I'm fine. Oh man, this laptop's like too far away. I think I'm getting old. If only these glasses that I took off were actually glasses, not blue light glasses that don't help me read from far away. A chord sequencer, that sounds super fun for sure. Maybe like the subharmonicon, but with actual chords rather than weird overtone selections that are difficult to get in tune with anything else. And some modeling, like amp modeling. Oh, drum machine. Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool too. I love my MPC-1. I can get whatever. You should bring that over, and then we can you can let me record some samples with it, put those samples on the MPC-1, so I've got them for the future. A big goal of mine is to get sort of Irvin Music Studio drum samples, or maybe like a whole sample collection, a proprietary, selection of samples from the studio. I would love to put like 4 mics on the kick drum and send it through Pro Tools and compress it the perfect way that I want, and etc. Get the perfect kick drum sound and have that on the sequencer. Do that for every piece of the drum kit, and then I can have my own drum kit at my fingertips. I think that would be really cool. Yeah, so I'm sort of having two conversations at once here. Travis, hit me up about coming on the live stream so you and I can have this conversation here on camera. Would love to have you on. I keep talking to my computer over here. Really, I should be checking out the camera here. For anybody else who comments, feel free. I will chat with you. Video quality, I think I got all the way there. Yeah. Hopefully I look great right now. I'm feeling great. Feeling pretty good. I got a good feeling about 2023. I hope you guys do too. I just watched that movie 8th Grade. I don't know if you guys have seen that Bo Burnham directed film. It's like a dramedy with an emphasis on the drama part about an 8th grade girl, and it is just anxiety provoking to the max, and I love it. And she's got a YouTube video she's like an aspiring YouTuber, and her sort of motivational speeches are enthralling when they're juxtaposed with her crushing middle school existence. Totally recommend that movie 8th Grade. It ends, well, I shouldn't spoil it, but I'm going to a little bit. It ends on a kind of hopeful note, which is nice, and I'm feeling hopeful about this next year. I really want to get this live stream in shape a little bit more. I'm excited about trying to get an engineer, a producer in here to help me out with each episode, so I don't have to worry about that side of things, whether I look good or sound good, at the same time. Maybe they could even read comments and shout them at me, or me, the guest, and I. That will be really helpful. I think that I want to sort of have it would be asking a lot to have somebody come over here every Wednesday to help me with this. So maybe I'll have to fork it out or do some favors for people, or have a few engineers that I could cycle through, maybe one every month. Travis says hire him. I might. Let's talk again. Yeah, hit me up. I will hit you up, Travis. I'm locking that away, because I think that would be really cool, especially to have somebody in the background to laugh at the jokes. I think that would be about half the job. That off-camera like giggle, although we would probably stick a mic over there in case there was anything pertinent that needed to be said. So that's one way I'm amping up the live stream, trying to get returning guests paired with other returning guests, and have more than 2 people on at a time. I think that'll be cool. Maybe in alternation, because I think that a one-on-one conversation, has the potential to dig down and get to some really interesting, meaty stuff. It's on me as a host to decide what the balance is of detached, ironic sarcasm, and some heartfelt, philosophical is. What is that balance? Still feeling that out. The format of the show is sort of emerging as I do it. But typically I start the show by talking about my small business and what I do. And why I do this live stream. I have been running my own small company full time since May of 2020. So 2.5 years, something like that. But I was building my studio before then too. But I teach private music lessons in guitar. All sorts of guitar, electric, rock, and jazz guitar, with theory, improv theory, and classical guitar is my main instrument. So I do love to dig deep on the guitar, whether it's finger style, or getting really into just mapping out the fretboard. How do you gain that freedom on the instrument? Similarly, trumpet, I do a lot of improv stuff and a lot of classical repertoire on the trumpet when I'm teaching. That's my secondary instrument, I'd say. I've got a couple of drum students and a ukulele student. I love smashing the drums, although I don't perform out on them much. And ukulele is just like an itty bitty guitar, so I feel qualified to teach that. Even if I am not playing a whole lot of ukulele. I've taught synthesizer and production and done some composition coaching. All of that stuff sort of falls into that weekly appointment sort of clientele that I keep up pretty much Monday through Thursday. I also offer event entertainment, and I only perform or only manage or represent projects that I perform in myself currently. Although looking into the new year, it might be cool to send some other musicians out. I don't know. This is something I've been grappling with, an idea that I've been grappling with for a long time. But right now, and in the past, I've preferred to just keep track of what I am a part of, which includes solo guitar, although I've done some live looping too with like a synth bass and guitar chords and playing trumpet over it. I'd really love to do a little bit more of that this year too. So my solo performance, sometimes that includes vocals as well, for a cocktail hour or rehearsal dinner or corporate event or something like that. But mostly classical guitar and jazz guitar, jazz arrangements of pop tunes, stuff like that. I also offer string combos, maybe a guitar violin duet or with a cello for a trio, maybe a bass for the trio. Really bass, violin, guitar would be ideal because cello and guitar are pretty much in the same range. But still, the cello can stick to the lower end of the instrument, and I can sort of avoid the lower end on the guitar. And either way, that trio really does free me up to, especially if I'm in the middle, the violinist is handling the melody and the bass or cello is handling the bass part. I get to just sort of flesh everything out like a harpsichordist and mess around in the middle harmonies there. That can be really fun. In general, I don't know, it's fun to play by myself too. I was going to say it's more fun to play with other people. It's nice to be able to rely on one another and feel what it's like to play with another musician, whether it's in the string combos or a jazz ensemble. I'd like to do more of those this year too. I have a jazz degree and love improvising, all of it, the chords and ripping some solos. Guitar, bass, drums is a good go-to there, but the quartet is best, where I'm playing some middle parts on the guitar, there's a bass, there's the drums, and then somebody else is handling the melody, whether it's a singer or another horn player. Jazz ensemble, Irvin Music Studio, jazz ensemble. So I teach private lessons, I offer event entertainment, and then there's this third department that I'm just like pushing up the mountain like Sisyphus, although it doesn't seem to be rolling back down like a boulder. Slowly this is building, and I'd love to do some more recording and engineering work. I'd say that this this live stream falls into that category. I have my own original projects, the album that I'm working on that I mentioned. What is being said here? Banger, yes. Camus is great, but a little depressing. He's a little too cool for school. The existentialists are just too close to rock and roll, if I'm going to be honest. I mean, it sort of skews me out that they were so popular. I think that's super weird and suspect. Um, but I could talk more about the existentialist, but let me finish this thought. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so the third arm, the sound production arm of my studio, would love to produce some bands. I've got a couple of clients who I sort of write songs with and produce their ideas. They might be singers, and I write the instrumental parts and just sort of guess and check with them. Is this what you're thinking? Do you want something more like this? And we sort of work our way all the way through a tune and record all the parts, and I mix it, master it, and put it out. I like that process. This year, I'd like to get into some larger chunks of time too, and maybe book out the studio for, half days to get more work done at once, get the creative juices flowing, with more of a flow, more of a like a flood, get the creative juices flooding, but this live stream is me ensuring that I carve out time in my week to build community and collaborate with other musicians to gain their more perspective to broaden my musical horizons through deep conversations with other people, but also sometimes to just joke around with them and say a lot. That's a big part of this live stream. Trying to cut down on that too. This live stream, is a chance for me to carve out time in my life to be says the commenter, to be creative. Like I said, I've got a jazz degree, and improv and jamming is a huge part of my life, but I don't necessarily want to go out late night and hang out, on the scene. I don't know if that is my scene. This is a great opportunity for me to be a little selective about who I'm jamming with, but also, there's a wide variety of people on here, and sometimes I'm quite uncomfortable in my role during the jam, especially with singer-songwriters. I sort of feel like I don't really know what to do if somebody's strumming along on a guitar, and I'm sort of noodling over them. I feel like I'm just sort of ruining what they're doing. I think that's going to be the case, although hopefully I don't ruin what she's doing. Next week with Amelia Dahl is coming on, a great poet and artist and singer-songwriter, strummer. So maybe I'll play like a hand drum or something unobstructive. So yeah, I get a little uncomfortable in those positions, or with incredibly talented musicians that come on that are blowing me out of the water. That happens sometimes, and it's really good for me, and I love putting myself in that position, or in the position where I'm comfortable and having fun. So this broadcast gives me the chance and sort of makes me do that every week, and it also gives me a chance to utilize my studio, advertise it a little bit, and let me brush up my chops on audio-visual stuff. In college, I did AV as my college job, running sound for lectures and connecting the video, running academic technology to classrooms and setting it up and such. So I do have a background in that sort of work, if not a degree in music tech. My time at Moog, I had 5 years there, also set me up in the tech world, and I do love geeking out on the gear side of things and having on guests that can geek out with me on that sort of stuff is really fun too. The world is super deep and nuanced in terms of brands and models of gear, of equipment. What is the best tool for this particular problem, or not everything's a problem, this particular application. So now we've got 47 episodes, although one of these was just me in the past as well. So yes, I won't say who it is anymore because I don't want to dox anybody, but the commenter worked with me at Moog and we crushed it all the time. Um, the what was I just saying though? Oh my gosh, gear, Moog, being there, jamming on stuff, gear. Wow, this is a skill that I don't have in itself, is looking at comments and not getting totally derailed. Oh well, I guess I'll come back to that thought if it's worthy. So yeah, music lessons, event entertainment, and sound production is sort of my life as a musician, and it keeps me pretty busy. I think that I'm doing a good job of wearing the different hats and pulling everything together. Although I really do want to build more of a team, engineers to help me out with this, maybe marketing help a little bit with my social media or something. Maybe some musicians to send out to weddings if I go down that road. Maybe, you know, I've got a pretty big space here, having other spots for teachers to teach. I don't know. But expanding is something I'm interested in, because I think that this is a lifelong passion for me. This is who I've always been, and who I will always continue to be, you know. I started playing guitar when I was 7. Both of my parents were musical. My dad played guitar and sang, and was the kind of person that could make up lyrics like on the fly, really, and get crowds of people to laugh, and is quite fun. And my mom could play ragtime piano. And so the house was just full of music when I was growing up. And of course, I didn't really get serious about guitar until 12 or 13. So those first few years of lessons amounted to Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and such like that. But I still do think, even, you know, with that experience and as a teacher, that those early years you can really instill some fundamentals. I mean, even the basic skills of getting your fingers to do what you want them to do. It's going to be easier to do that when you're 12 or 13, to get to the point that your fingers are obeying you quicker, more efficiently. But I think if you're doing that work when it is hard, when you're like younger, 8, 7, 8, 9, that it really, I don't know, digs deeper pathways in the brain. That's so vague, and I don't know if that means much, but there seems to be a sort of through line of, there's a distinction to be made with musicians who started very young and musicians who started a little bit later. And a lot of times the musicians that start a little later talk about having to do more work to get to that point of the music feeling natural to them. But then I think that's sort of a pro in the starting later category, because I do notice a trend with talking, especially, you know, now I feel like I have earned being the I've earned the generalizations that I can make, you know, after talking to so many musicians on a weekly basis. I can sort of categorize things a little bit more accurately than I thought that than I think that I could earlier, now that I've got some evidence. And people who start later as adults, I think, often do put in the work at a more intense level, and so they can organize their practice time more effectively, and everything is a little bit more fresh, and they're able to talk about it, to articulate it, and sort of have everything consolidated in a certain way that people who have been playing music their whole lives sort of take for granted. But I'm one of the latter types of people. I've been playing music my whole life, and really identified as a musician whenever I was young. I remember playing guitar for my elementary school music class and gaining some some compliments, or I was gonna say renown, but how much renown do you get for Twinkle Twinkle Little Star when you're 9 or whatever? But it felt really good, and it reinforced my desire to want to play guitar. But I couldn't play guitar in band, so I chose trumpet and kept that up through marching band, where I sort of alternated between trumpet and guitar on the field. Did jazz band on guitar. In preparation for college, I started taking lessons with a jazz guitarist, Mark Yaxley, who also happened to teach at UNCA, where I was looking at going to school. Again, I felt limited in that I couldn't go to college for metal or rock guitar, which is usually, that's where my passion really lay at that time in my teenage years. Shredding and heavy distortion and just making noise, crazy, shreddy noise, like intense, dark sort of wrath type music. But when I got to college, and at this point I had been learning about jazz and proper sort of harmonic theory, my interests became a lot more in the fusion or proggy sort of category, writing really weird stuff and trying to create a new sound. This obsession with like trying to make a sound that hasn't been heard before. I was that sort of experimenter. Although I wish I had focused a little bit more in college. I think a lot of people say that, but I did end up with a jazz and philosophy double degree. And so I really diversified my interests. I kept up trumpet throughout college and took up classical guitar in college. So my academic, at that point, that's the equivalent of my professional music career, was really splintering off in the music department and then into a completely other department, the philosophy department. And I keep up reading philosophy to this day. I just finished Bertrand Russell's History of Western Philosophy, which was quite the tome. And now I'm reading a whole lot of stuff. Oh man, these comments are coming in late. Why trumpet? That's a good question. I think because I was into rock, and maybe at that point, I don't know, I was 11, but I was already playing music and getting attention for the music that I was playing. And trumpet is very bombastic and loud and upfront. And I guess I just wanted more of that sort of attention. And out of all the band instruments, I guess it's sort of, well, I guess saxophone is probably the noodliest, right? But there's something esteemed or distinguished about the trumpet, in my opinion, that the saxophone just lacks. And come at me, not a big saxophone fan. Looking back, I think percussion would have been really cool too. I love smashing the drums. I come play on the drum set every day just as like a way to let loose, and it's like really cathartic to me to beat on those drums and to get rhythmic, and to just have this like pulse, or I guess these multiple pulses, backbeats and offbeats and upbeats and downbeats, sort of all at the same time, sort of a juggling kind of thing, in a different way that juggling chords and a melody and the rhythm and the harmony on the guitar is. It's a different kind of feeling. And the trumpet is quite less, a smaller amount of juggling, and is a lot more laser focused, right? Because it's just one note at a time, and you've only got the 3 valves to be thinking about. So you do have to sort of juggle fingering and partials. You can play multiple notes with the same fingering depending on the tightness of your embouchure, the muscles in your mouth, and how much air you're blowing. So you do have to be very aware of what partial you're on. So your fingering corresponds to the note that you want to play. So there's an intentionality that you're balancing with the physicality of the trumpet when you're playing it, but still on a more simplified level than the guitar or the drum set. And you can focus more on the notes that are coming out, the melody, right? You're not worrying. I mean, you are worried about the rhythms of the notes that you're playing and the harmonies that your melody's fitting over on the trumpet. That comes into play with the intentionality, which I think the intentionality is really important when you're playing any instrument. I think musicians are fundamentally artists, and artists, I believe, express themselves, and you can't really express something that you don't intend. So I don't know, I'm a little judgmental maybe that way of art and artists. I think there's a lot of different ways to go about it. I mean, even if you've got some great tech, like I've got some Moog equipment that sometimes becomes a happy accident machine when you're messing around on it, you still have to make some decisions about how you're framing that, how you're presenting that as an artist, right? That's where the intentionality can come in. When you're on the trumpet, the intentionality can become extremely immediate. I find myself closing my eyes when I'm playing the trumpet more than other instruments, and really listening to what I'm doing, and being right there in the flow state without overthinking it. On the guitar, I tend to overthink quite a bit more. So that's a lot of why trumpet feels good to me now. I liked playing it in jazz band throughout college, and I enjoyed teaching it every week. I think I play the most trumpet in my lessons. I don't really get it out too much. I do, pardon me, on the live stream. Oh no, I have no guest, so now when I take a sip of water, it's going to be dead air. Nobody else is talking. Oh, that was really good. I've been talking a lot. I actually didn't expect to talk this much. I thought that I would be playing by now already. I was going through a little bit of my past, present, and future of my musical career. I made it pretty far in college. You know, I was playing in various ensembles in school, but never really did the rock band thing or the touring thing. And I think that's something that I sort of missed out on, because I was a lot more in that lifestyle or in that mindset in my early 20s. But I took a little bit of a break from music after college, and came back to it like 6 months later or something like that. Couldn't live without it. And started teaching music at Asheville Music School in 2014. Just a few months after I graduated, less than a year after I graduated from UNCA. And quickly got a job working at Moog Music. I've got a comment on the Instagram, but that's not coming through my comments on my computer, so I'm going to get up and look at it. Oh, I'm awesome. Thank you, Morgan. I got to agree with you, and I think you are too. Anybody who's watching this. Thanks. Yeah, you caught me talking about myself and really working my ego. But I think that's part of what an artist has to do is put yourself out there and take your personality and sort of frame it. I think there needs to be an authenticity involved, And that's sort of what I wanted to take time to figure out after college. Like, did I really want to do this? What do I have to do? I did think that I was going to be a rock star with no evidence in that direction. So it was difficult for me to start teaching private lessons and to get a full-time job in a synthesizer factory, and to settle down. I found that very challenging, but ultimately extremely rewarding. The 8 to 5 at Moog sort of beat me into submission when it came to my circadian rhythm and obeying it. And I see that there's one other comment, but it's so tiny and far away. Okay, I'm gonna look at it. All right. Oh, you do have to build on yourself. I agree. I know. I'm pretty sure that that the person that's commenting, I looked at it so quickly that I'm only pretty sure, but I think that you run your own business too, and you got to build on yourself. You got to be dedicated and disciplined and flex, these various parts of yourself that that don't always feel comfortable to flex, and I think that choosing a more responsible route, a more square route in those earlier days, it took it took years and years of sort of conforming myself to these sorts of values, but I think that I'm really proud of where I'm at right now, and sort of set up now to finally get some creative achievements taken care of this year, in a more prepared and thoughtful way than I might have if I had prioritized them earlier in my career. So working at Moog for 5 years was really great to sort of slow down and listen to a bunch of audiobooks and gain a lot of perspective, meet a lot of really awesome people, with different different types of creativity, different attitudes towards what was good about music. And I also worked at Leaf, a nonprofit. That all happened pretty back to back. Asheville Music School and Moog and Leaf formed sort of my late 20s professionally. Leaf put me with at-risk youths in what they call their Schools and Streets program, where I went into this community. It was at Delta House, where I co-directed a jazz band with Gary Bradley, and worked in a position that I never really saw myself being. It was extremely challenging and required a lot of patience, and evoked a lot of confusion in me, as I had a lot to learn about the nonprofit world and that sort of community outreach. And I did that for a long time, ending up at Christine Avery Center with my own jazz band, brass band. But the challenges there were extremely great. They, it's difficult for students to make any sort of progress when they can't take their horns home and practice. And that was, there were prohibitive, there were things prohibiting the students from taking their horns home. So that was probably the biggest challenge. And before we could really get past that with that particular program, the latter program, COVID hit. So that, weirdly enough, was an opportunity for me to go out on my own and start my full-time teaching at the time, it was teaching all virtual lessons, and then weddings were still happening. I was still playing a fair amount of pared down weddings. It was sort of an opportunity for my solo guitar career because people turned to elopements, to smaller. Oh, thanks, Asia. I'm enjoying talking about myself. It feels sort of getting it off my chest. And I will play here in just a moment. I am almost at the end of the history of my musical career because COVID was so recent. We're all still sort of recovering from it, right? I think we're all still trying to come up with social avenues or outlets to connect with one another. That's part of what this live stream is, to have guests on and connect with people, for me to get friendships and real life relationships back up and consistent and constant and reliable. But during COVID, I got to play a lot of solo guitar for smaller elopements. Worked a lot with Love and Wisdom, an excellent, efficient company in town, like an efficient management company. Still trying to get Phil, the owner, on this live stream. Maybe he'll come on this year in 2023. He's a busy guy. Also an ex-philosophy teacher, or he's specialized in philosophy, so I'm sure that would be a great conversation to have him on. And the weddings have continued. Last year was crazy busy with all of the postponements from the year before. Who knows what this year will look like, although I've sort of lucked into it because since college, I've found, I think maybe in coinciding with sort of trying to force myself to settle down, that I find a lot of peace, solace, tranquility, presence, grounding in playing classical guitar. And it does so much for me spiritually to just sort of focus extremely hard on sweet sounding stuff. It's sometimes it feels like when I'm sight reading, especially, it sort of feels like cranking the the Jack in the Box, but there's no sort of fear that the Jack in the Box is going to pop out. Imagine if, because that's sort of the startling thing about that, but the cranking is nice. Or like a music box, just working my way through a chart feels so good on classical guitar. And I guess what I'm talking about lucking out on is that Asheville is quite the tourist destination and seems to just be ever increasing the population of tourists from year to year. So hopefully more and more people will come here wanting to get married and wanting luxurious classical guitar, serenading their guests for prelude in the ceremony and cocktail hours, and light receptions and rehearsal dinners, farewell brunches, etc. More and more corporate groups coming into town, to enjoy beer tastings. That seems to be pretty much the number one thing that I'm background music on for corporate events. But all sorts of corporate events, events in general, celebrations, birthdays. It is really cool to be that sort of performer. There are things about, playing in a bar full of people or a venue with a giant crowd that's screaming at you. I've had a few of those opportunities and I'm really grateful for those too. But I think that I do have a natural curiosity about different types of people and cultural traditions, and how do people celebrate or treat each other or dress up, and seeing all of these different beautiful locations and different types of ceremonies, or you know, watching two people that love each other talk to each other in front of all of their friends and family is pretty interesting on a human level to me. And so I think playing all of these sorts of events really suits me. I find it really interesting to just see all of these different uh, nooks and crannies of the world. So I'll probably keep doing that this year. Excited to keep teaching my lessons. Really hoping that my students practice more this year. Uh, I'm sure that they will. And but more so, I really want to push this, the production side of things. I'm really proud of the work that I've done building my studio. During my time at Moog, I collected all of the Moog gear that I could buy. So I have a pretty extensive collection of synthesizers and effect pedals, analog stuff. The Model D and the Moog One, are sort of highlights. I just got a Bose Sub 2 to go with my Bose S1 Pros that I've been gigging with. So now I'm a little bit more mobile, but I also just have like a killer sub for the studio that helps me hear what things are supposed to sound like when I'm really blasting it. The MPC One allows me to create more contemporary beats, lo-fi beats, trap beats, hip hop beats like that. I upgraded my I/O, so now I've got lots and lots of ins and outs, so I can record a lot of instruments at once. A whole band would be totally I would be totally capable of recording a whole band at the same time, although usually it's still better to do one at a time. But for the live stream, excited to have more people on. Thank you, Travis, or whoever you are. I do have these beautiful new mics, the SM7Bs. Don't they sound delicious? They truly do sound delicious. You can go back and listen to some of the older. Go all the way back and listen to the early ones. They're terrible. I really messed up the sound on a few of these early live streams, but now I think I'm getting closer and closer, keying in on the performance side of things. So I guess I guess that's a great segue for me to start playing some music. So you'll just get to watch me in real time rearrange everything. Thanks for watching if you are right now, and let's turn to the classical guitar and see what I feel like playing. All right. And feel free to comment any questions you might have. And I think the main thing for me to ask is for you to subscribe on the YouTube channel. I think that's the ultimate goal for this. But yeah, let me know that you're watching. All right. Especially because I'm all alone today. Again, this is 8-Note. I'm Sam Irvin in Irvin Music Studio. Usually there's a guest here for an hour of chatting and an hour of jamming. But I did it by myself. That was a whole hour of chatting. So now let's move on to the hour of jamming. I'm going to pop on a clip-on mic so that I can still talk whenever I'm feeling it. I'll be right back. Check, check. Hey, okay, I think I can hear me. Hopefully you can too. Excellent. Thank you for the confirmation there. Nice. I hear you too via the comments. Okay, so I just got these hooks for these cables. See, upgrades to the studio left and right. My mom gave them to me. They're little guitars. Isn't that nice? This is where I teach my lessons. I've got my computer set up over there where I mix music with my two monitor speakers. You know, they are facing me right now. Typically, I'll sit in my computer chair in front of them with the equilateral triangle happening. And I have this suspicion that the way that these rails are set up are great for the acoustics of the room because I'm not getting like a consistent bounce back from if it was just a wall here, but rather it gets sort of broken up by the railing. So another thing I've sort of lucked into, I think the architecture there really helps. The when was it? Last year, the year before last, got this drop ceiling put in, and above it is really special sound absorbent insulation, and that really helps the sound in here. It sort of sounds like when you're outside in the snow and everything's just sort of quiet, you know, dampened. Okay, so all right. I'm going to turn off my mic. The first thing that I typically do whenever I grab my guitar in the morning to practice, after I journal for an hour, I practice for an hour, and I start with just some really aimless improv, nothing too fancy, just listening to harmonies and with a no right or wrong notes sort of mentality, just sort of reminding myself that I like to play guitar. So here's a little bit of improv to start. So yeah, something like that. I think there were parts of that that were pleasing to me. Um, I reached some sort of natural conclusion. So then I play about a bajillion scales. I use the caged method of organizing the fretboard into sort of 5 basic positions. And I typically play a different exercise on each of the 5 positions, starting on a different position each day. But I repeat all 5 positions for 6 of the 12 keys per day, typically. So usually I spend about 30 minutes playing these scales and exercises. I won't subject you guys to all of that right now. Maybe I'll do 1 or 2 keys with various modes. So there are 7 modes in the major scale, and modes are basically just the major scale but starting on a different note of it. So if you think of the 5 different forms or positions of the scale on the guitar times the 7 modes, we're at 35 times the 12 keys that there are. We're getting pretty up there in the amount of scales, and that's before we even talk about the modes of other scales like the harmonic minor and the melodic minor, and the sort of auxiliary scales like the diminished scale and the whole tone scale. Then there are the pentatonic scales, those modes, and there are just so many scales, not to mention all the arpeggios that correspond to those scales. Oh, is this a compliment? Oh, that's great. I'm glad that I was nice background music for the story time. I don't know if the scales are going to continue to be excellent background music, but who knows? I find them to be very pleasant and meditative to play. So for simplicity's sake, I'll do the major scale for a while. So enjoy the major scale with the caged method with various exercises. I was just going to say, then I'll typically move up a fourth to the next key. That's so funny. I'm getting very nervous. I'm blushing playing these scales on camera. I'm going to move on now. After I play a bajillion scales, I move on to sight reading. This morning I restarted this beautiful book, The Complete Soar Studies for Guitar, Fernando Soar, one of the best guitarists of all time, and highly recommend. This is from the early 1800s. Good stuff. I think I made it to page 11 this morning, so I haven't read this in forever, so it's going to be a little clunky. But that's part of the joy of sight reading, so hope you enjoy with me. I don't know about that one. I'm going to try one more. That was number 10 from, what am I playing? From Opus 60. Opus 60, here's Opus 60 number 11 by Fernando Soar. I think that's really nice. See, that brings me so much joy to just play those little simple things. I don't remember ever having playing that. I played that a long time ago. I'm excited to read through all of these books edited by David Grimes. There's that one. Here's the Complete Giuliani Studies. You notice the same cover there. These are all great books that were instrumental, no pun intended, in me learning how to play the classical guitar, and these were certainly going a lot slower last time I was reading through them. But really pleasant stuff, and really really cleanly notated. You can see perhaps what this looks like. That's what I was just reading. Yeah, like that. Oh, thanks. Enjoy your night too. I'm glad that they enjoyed my live stream. I think they already left. They went to bed. That's nice of them to say goodnight. So after I do some sight reading, I do another finger exercise, tremolo exercise, some more improv. But I systematically go through the strings while maintaining really quick notes on the bottom string. Shoo! Quite the workout on the upper part of my hand there. So that's my tremolo exercise. Tremolo is that technique of using your three fingers to delicately brush against one of the strings to get that fluttering bird wing sort of sound. After I do these technique exercises and my sight reading, after some preliminary improv, I have been working on memorizing the Bach cello suite, although I've really just got the prelude down, and I've been taking a break off of it for the winter break, but I'm still going to try my best to perform it right now. So wish me luck. It's not going to be great. It's in progress. So no major train wrecks. That's good. I really love that song or that piece. There's something really special about it. It gets super dark. I mentioned like the nooks and crannies of the world earlier, and that one strikes me as like that's a real nook or cranny, or both. But yeah, it gets deep in there. Sometimes I might play it from memory and then read it to make sure that I'm playing everything correctly still, because we can really trick ourselves into thinking that we're, executing everything right when we're not. And then I'll play it memorized again just to cement in those things that I'm working on, but still got a lot of reps to go before it's where I want it to be really natural and stuff. So yeah, after I have accomplished all of that, that's my main in progress memorized work. I do move on to my in progress works, my repertoire. And let's see, I'll play one of those and then move on. I'm halfway through my time. Let's see, I do like this Malanga. How about that? I don't think I've played this one on the stream or online before. So we'll check this out. Yeah, a little something to chew on there. Oh, I had my mic on the whole time. Oh well. Okay, so that probably means that you heard me breathing heavily while I was playing that whole thing. Don't know who's still watching, but I think that I will move on from the guitar, and because that is my practice routine. Then I just play more songs that I have in my repertoire, whether it's jazz arrangements that I've done, pop arrangements, all of those sort of tunes. But there are sort of two categories. I work from my select guitar favorites, which are generally more complex and demanding pieces that I need to be practicing regularly. And then I've got my more general guitar repertoire that I might do on shuffle just to check in. Man, it does look like the updated quality is working out a little better with the 60 FPS, so that's pretty cool. Let's move on, and I will play a couple of tunes that I'm working on MuseScore. Okay, so I've written about 15 songs, and what I'm working on right now is adding vocal melodies to these songs. I'm not going to sing for you here tonight, but we can look at a couple of these and I can play these terrible sounding MIDI sounds of these tunes. So you got to sort of use your imagination as to what it'll sound like when it all comes together. But I'll play some excerpts and talk about them a little bit, and some challenges and some parts that I'm proud of. So let's listen to this. Instagram, I don't know if this is going to translate. I guess it will if I mute and turn up the volume. So let's try that. I forgot to I forgot to unmute the vocal melody, which here I've just done with a B flat clarinet. Yeah, I guess Instagram you're not really seeing the sheet music, but that's part of the fun. So you can find that on the YouTube or one of the other stream platforms. So let me go to the mixer, turn on that vocal melody that I'm definitely not going to sing right now, and I can also just comment, that the intro there, or throughout this entire, really the bulk of the song, I wrote this exercise for guitar. It sort of metamorphosizes through variations of this original theme. Never really comes back to it. It's just sort of goes through a bunch of sort of transformations, and so for this arrangement, I sort of use that. It's a tool of cohesion throughout the song, and it moves between instrument and instrument. So we're about to listen to it switch over from the guitar to the bass when the vocal melody comes in. So yeah, again, you gotta use your imagination. I'm really excited to start recording these parts, but I really want to get the vocal, melody, and lyrics down on all 15 tunes before I start recording. And I'm so close to the recording process. I mean, that's really exciting to me, but still a lot of fun things to talk about here and to show. The maybe I could go backwards since I'm already at this part of the song. I've got this sort of modal vocal part here that was really fun to put together. As I'm coming down, I've got everything's pretty solidly in D down here, but it's not D minor, it's like a D Dorian. We've got this B natural here, and an E natural, and an A, and a D, and a G, still in D. So when we're coming down with the B, A, G, I can slip this F sharp in here, and it doesn't violate any of the other notes while we're in have the G in the bass, and neither does this E flat, which is the minor sixth of the G. So just getting some nice chromaticism there. Let's see, where is, to get to the 5 chord, slipping in these leading tones to the 5. Some secondary leading tones there. Here's the D. So what I was just describing, over that G, which is really the 4 chord, here's our home bass with the D, and we've got the B naturals here to give it that Dorian flair. But here, this F sharp is very out of place, but over the counter melody here, that E flat can come in and the F sharp can come in. Nothing else is violating that. And so whenever if I flesh it out with maybe a piano part or anything else there, I'll just have to keep in mind that I can't have an F natural here or an E natural here. The vocal parts have been extremely tough to write because maybe obviously I wrote this instrumental part first. In the guitar, and then I'm trying to build everything around that. So there's already a very robust melody, and then trying to create a vocal melody that doesn't cross that melody or include any of the same notes was difficult. So as you can see here, I've got D, C, B. This is just going right down the scale. This also starts on D and C, but they sort of branch out away from each other, right? Some of them, there are some better examples than that of my vocal melody. Here, I really like this counter melody that I came as the violin sort of juggle these offbeats. Some really intentional ornamentation there. This giant cadenza, I've already had reviewed by a violinist who had a couple of notes, no pun intended. So I'll get some notes there. Here, this is the same guitar exercise, sort of metamorphosis, that's been running through the entire song that eventually becomes the cadenza. That was all part of the exercise, and in fact, this violin was eventually played on the guitar. I wrote it for the guitar, and I wrote that actually on the guitar, not on this software, and could play it at one time. And now I don't have to relearn it because I'll make a violinist learn it. But before we go to just the violin, we end up with these cool chords. Really, I guess, guess climaxing here, where we end up with what, a D and a C and a G. So we have some like quartal stuff happening here. A G, an A, and a C, and a D. Yeah, very quartal, very modern, cool stuff. Not tertiary like most chords. Most chords are built out of thirds. Those chords are built out of fourths and fifths there. Let's see, anything of note here. You know, this part I'm really fond of, but it'll be very difficult to mix it to where everything comes out. A lot of volume automation will be required during this part of the mix. I like that I have it sort of chill out here with something a little bit more simple before it explodes into this polyphony. Yeah, it's sort of march-like. Again, we've got a lot of like cool ornamentation, this like classical technique that I'm trying to bring into this sort of prog rocky environment. And just these cool, you know, I was talking about the quartal sort of stacking. That's happening here too, and this harmonized, this now harmonized what would this even be called? Yeah, like a metamorphosis, this cycle, you know, that's happening with a bit of a counter melody with these sort of triplets to distinguish them from that that melody. Yeah, I like those. I really worked hard on this line. I think I spent a whole day, like 3 or 4 hours, just thinking of this line. Purity of certainty achieved, such a relief until doubt gnaws, revealing the dream labyrinthine with secret inconsistency. Whew, it's a mouthful, but boy, am I proud of that line. That is really cool. And there's some cool stuff happening with the rhythm of this melody too, with these dotted eighth notes. The way that this melody is interacting with the melody and the repeating guitar part. Really, really happy about how that turned out. I say turned out, but still gotta record it, and there's still such a gargantuan amount of work to continue to do on this. It starts off with the line, "I don't know what I think when I think that I know, but I don't," and that's a line that I've been holding on to for years and years. One of my favorite sort of one-liners that I've written, because I do feel like that quite often. Less often do I want to make every single little piece fit together, but they won't. I don't feel that frustration so much, because boy, I mean, how idealistic do you have to be to think that every little piece will fit together? But it sounded good as an echo of that first line. All right, well, I think this counts as a sneak peek into my in progress album. Most of the songs are like this. I wrote for a very specific palette of instruments: the drum set, the bass, piano, guitar, trombone, trumpet, flute, violin, and voice. And that is consistent across all 15 songs. I'm not sure if the trombone and flute will be synthesized. I think that's likely the case. So typically, or so in reality, there will be a piano player. So drums, bass, piano, guitar. The piano will take over the trombone and flute, and the trumpet will be played by me. I'll probably be singing. So really, me singing and playing trumpet and guitar. I tried to make it. I tried not to overlap the trumpet and the guitar, so anytime that the guitar is playing, there's no trumpet playing, and vice versa. However, I didn't do that with the vocals, so some of these guitar parts are extremely challenging to play with the very syncopated, off-kilter vocal part. And don't know if I'll be able to do that, so I need an extra guitarist if I were to ever perform this live. But yeah, definitely at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 piece, probably a 5-piece, maybe a 6 or 7-piece when it's all said and done. That was Certainty redo is just because I had to redo this file at some point. All right. Not seeing any comments about that. I'm going to switch back here to the jam and play some synthesizer music, I think. That was the last thing on the agenda. I don't know if I'll get to the MPC today. It's not very exciting anyways. No, it's super exciting. I just need to learn more about it. Well, that was some music for you. And that was me talking about myself for you for a long time. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to be very grateful to have a guest again next week. Looking forward to that and to a big year of this live stream and my studio's endeavors going forward. Big year, 2023. Let's do it. In the meantime, good night. And thanks for tuning in.